Hey, folks, welcome to another episode of Mostly Superheroes. I'm your host, Logan. This is episode 24, another edition of Logan's Heroes, where we sit down with the people that inspire us most. This week, lawyer and YouTube sensation Ed Herman. Let's get to it. Let's hit it. What's up, folks? Logan here at Mostly Superheroes with another segment of Logan's Heroes. For a reminder for you, those of you that might be watching for the very first time, Logan's Heroes is a piece where we do one-on-one interviews with some of my favorite people that inspire me to do things like we're doing, creating fun stuff for folks out there. Most of the time, it's nerds just like me that have a passion project or something fun that they're working on. This week, we have a fellow St. Louisan, Ed Herman. Hey, Ed, thank you very much for joining us, and I'm going to give you a big round of applause on our end.
Oh, well, thank you. Oh, my goodness. I never get to hear applause because, with my videos, you don't get applause on the internet. You get likes, which are nice, but they're not applause.
Yeah, it's almost like YouTube needs to come up with a function where, like, you open up your statistics, and if there's more applause that day, you get, if there's more likes that day, you get, like, a sound effect.
Yeah, a little something like, it can go anywhere from a polite golf clap all the way to a thunderous ovation.
Thank you, Ed, for spending some time with us today. So, Ed, I just want to kind of start at, this is called Logan's Heroes, right? So I'm going to give my perspective of who you are, what you kind of are to me, and then where I kind of rediscovered you as a YouTube person, this personality. It's like this weird mix of things that people I don't think genuinely would like put into, all the same bucket of things. You know what I mean?
Yes, sure. I have a very large bucket, Logan.
You do. You're a man of many, or maybe just one bucket, many things.
Just one gigantic bucket.
So where I know you from, and really when I say you, it's your law firm, Brown and Crouppen. This is going to be one of those weird, I want to see if you agree with this. This is one of those like St. Louis things, right? You guys have like a St. Louis thing. So I grew up in an hour south of St. Louis, a little town called Bonne Terre. You know Bonne Terre?
Sure.
Okay. So I'm from there. I've lived in the city majority of my life, bounced around a little bit, Chicago here for a minute, Nebraska, and then back to Soulard is what really called me back home. I miss Soulard so much. That's a neighborhood we talk about on this show.
Love Soulard.
Absolutely the best. It's a place I'm missing a lot this year, right?
Right. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I haven't been to Peacemaker all year. I haven't been to Bogart's, which I still count as Soulard, even though it's, I guess, Lafayette. I haven't been to Sydney Street Cafe in years. And then my favorite place, McGurk's.
Oh yeah, best.
Where I spent all of law school at McGurk's. It's the number one hangout amongst the law students.
I saw that it's won multiple awards for its patio. McGurk's patio is one of the best.
And it should also win multiple awards for its corned beef. Because it is the best in town, certainly.
Yeah, definitely one of my favorites. I mean, Irish music 7 nights a week, just like a legit Irish pub. Yeah, definitely missing all those places this year. But in terms of Brown and Crouppen, something that, it's always been something that I've known since I was a young kid. The law commercials with Terry, just seeing Terry on TV my whole life, telling me, call Brown and Crouppen, for if you're in a car accident, if you have an injury. This guy's not just on my TV. He's on every billboard in town. He's on the buses. He's on the metro. I moved to the city and I realized, oh, this wasn't just a commercial that I watched as a young boy in Bonne Terre. This is a guy that lives in St. Louis and works in St. Louis.
Yeah, he is ubiquitous. That is how we like it.
Yeah.
There's no escaping Terry Crouppen.
And that's how I would.
No matter how hard you may try.
No matter how much you've been running it. And your partners at the firm, right?
Yes.
And it's a group of lawyers that have been running the firm at Brown & Crouppen for how many years now?
The firm's been around since 1979. I've been there for 20 years. And but Terry's still there. I talk to Terry every day. In normal times, you know, him and Andy Crouppen, his son, the three of us have lunch just about every single day. And haven't gotten to do that other than a few episodes of Three Lawyers Eating Sandwiches that we were able to film under safe COVID conditions. But yeah, no, it's we're still, for good or for bad, the sort of the brain trust over there. But it's gotten pretty big, the operation. I mean, we have over 50 lawyers and over 200 staff people, so it's grown a lot over the last 41 years.
And this is so funny. Like, if you're listening to this right now, just so you know, I don't know if I mentioned this at the beginning, we also release this as a podcast, so our podcast listeners will hear this. It's at this point, you're probably like, so you got a lawyer on here? What the hell's this all about? Just so you get a lawyer on mostly superheroes. Well, Ed just mentioned Three Lawyers. What's the title of the YouTube that segment?
Three Lawyers Eating Sandwiches.
Three Lawyers Eating Sandwiches. You know, what are we talking about? This is where I rediscovered kind of Brown & Crouppen and really discovered Ed for the very first time was in the last couple of years, your YouTube videos. And
yeah,
what are we talking about? Like let's start with a couple examples of what we're talking about here. I'd like to just open up with one, if that's okay.
Go ahead.
And I feel like this will give people the truest sense of what we're kind of talking about and what got me curious in the first place. What I like about your videos is you cover a very big genre of things that you talk about. This is a TV and film podcast, so I wanted to start with a movie, and with it being Christmas time, Home Alone. You've done Ed versus Home Alone. Tell us about Ed versus real quick before we start this video.
Ed versus was just sort of a platform that we thought would allow me to kind of talk about almost anything that I want to. And the name, of course, you know, since it's tied into the fact that I'm a lawyer, most court cases are set up as someone versus, you know, something, or the people versus OJ, or, you know, there's a versus in the middle. So at first, you know, we thought we would always try to tie it a little bit into the law, like we do in the Home Alone or we do in the Batman. But mostly, I just started picking topics. They let the lunatic run the asylum, is basically what happened. They gave me freedom to talk about whatever I wanted to. So I went to the things I felt I was an expert in, which included things like cereal and included things like taking a nap. And then ultimately, I just sort of ran with it. They let me do my thing, and the shows took off with people, and they've all gotten over 1 million views. Some of them have gotten over 3 million views. And the Ed versus series has gotten 4 Emmy Awards in the Mid-America region. So, I mean, you know, who would have thought any of that when we started it?
Unbelievable. That we're talking about Emmys. Yeah, it's insane. So I definitely want to give people some backstory. You know, I know you've worked with a team of people to put these together. I want to actually get into some of that, of how you make these videos. Mm-hmm. But with that, folks, let's give you a little taste of what Ed's putting out in the world. And like I said, he does a Ed versus Home Alone. Let's just watch a minute or two of this. We'll watch it together, Ed.
Okay. After the next few minutes, you'll never be able to watch the movie Home Alone the same way again. I'm Ed Herman, and I'm a lawyer with the law firm of Brown & Crouppen. And on this episode of Ed Versus, I'm going to take on Home Alone, because I believe that the real villain of the film is not the wet bandits, but in fact, Kevin McAllister himself.
Kevin!
That's right, that little boy played by Macaulay Culkin, so cute, wasn't he? No. And at the end of this video, I'm going to ask each of you to put in the comments whether you believe that he is guilty or not guilty. Let's look at the evidence. What's the first thing that Kevin does? He discovers he's alone. He looks at pornography, and he spots a gun on the wall. Look how he lights up. He takes the gun, and what does he do with it? He sets up human targets to shoot at. Not soda cans, human targets. And then, watch this. He displays expert marksmanship. If you watch the movie closely, what you're going to find out is that before the wet bandits have even taken one item from the McAllisters, Kevin proves himself to be a thief. Watch him in the scene in the convenience store when he takes a toothbrush, which he is told to pay for, and instead he runs out of the store and evades the police.
Shoplifter!
Credibility is the key to every trial. Does a jury believe somebody? Are they a truth teller or are they lying? Let's look at Kevin McAllister. He goes and does a grocery shopping for himself. Watch the cashier ask him a series of questions and pay attention, because every single answer that Kevin gives is a lie.
Where's your mom?
My mom's in the car.
Where's your father?
He's at work.
What about your brothers and your sisters?
I'm an only child.
We've all heard situations where serial killers claim to have heard voices. Well, remember the scene where Kevin is sitting there and his furnace seems to come to life? And at one point, Kevin looks at it and says,
Shut up.
I didn't hear the furnace say anything. Did you?
I have to. That's exactly where I'm gonna stop it. Just let me give you.
I haven't seen that in a long time.
I would say that's 2018, right?
Yeah, it was Christmas 2 years ago. Yeah.
This is what I gotta tell you. So I've watched your videos, I'd seen them, and then, it's one of those things where I'm gonna be totally candid with you, and this is probably exactly what people think about me. You think, oh, here's another white guy trying to be funny, and like, you're funny. Like, I've watched this, not just funny. I found myself just kind of continuously letting the videos play through to where I wouldn't even pick the next one. I was like, well, I'll just hit the channel and I'll see whatever pops up, because these actually made me laugh and they made me feel good.
I've been, which is really the best thing about it. I've been shocked by, how warmly they've been received and the kind of positive comments I'm getting from people just like that. And I'm getting comments from people of every different background, every race, different religions, different parts of the country. And politically, I have just as many people who are very strong on the right wing as I do who are strong on the left wing. And that like satisfies me so much, because I feel like I'm putting, especially this year, as troublesome as it's been, I feel like I'm putting something out in the world that does not take away from anybody. It doesn't hurt anybody. It helps us all maybe appreciate the little things a little bit, makes people laugh, smile, whatever. Then that makes me happy. The only one that was controversial, quite frankly, was the Home Alone video, because It's got a lot of passionate fans. And you have a lot of people who are very pro, standing your ground and, my home is my castle. And I really, they didn't quite get that this was a satirical video. I had to kind of go back in and say, you understand this is satire. Clearly, I'm a fan of the film. I know it real well. So there were a few people like that. But for the most part, all of the videos have been warmly embraced.
Well, sure. And I'll tell you this. This is just my way of life, and I've taken this straight out of Joe Rogan's playbook of not reading the comments. I've gotten away from it because I want the feedback of, like, what do people like, but I also have to learn that, like, there are some you're always going to have, people in a crowd that just don't realize really my favorite thing about your videos. This is your personal take on a topic that is relatable to a lot of people at one time.
Yeah, I read every single comment, and I generally respond to all of the comments myself. Well, on the plus side, in all fairness, and I don't mean this to sound braggy, but like 99% of the comments are really positive, which I know how the internet is. It's usually far more motivated when somebody has something negative to say. People are not quite as generous with their praise, but people have just been wonderful to me. And then about one in every comments, makes some kind of like fat remark. And, you just have to, take it and, just not let it bother you. You just move on, but it doesn't slow me down. I keep doing my thing. Doesn't bother me. I know if I put out a video about snacking, I'm going to get people who comment and say, oh, you've done enough snacking. And I put out something on candy and people are going to start putting in the meme of Wilford Brimley and the word diabetes, which I got that meme sent to me like so many times. Then you get the people that want to point out my visual similarity to Paul Giamatti. I get that a lot on there. I didn't mind that as much. When my beard was shorter, though, I had a few cruel people who likened my appearance to Harvey Weinstein. And that was a little bit hurtful because he's not an attractive man. Nothing about him being a rapist. I mean, I don't think people were calling me a rapist, but just that I didn't want to look like him. So I let the beard grow out a little bit more. And after I did that, the Weinstein remarks died down. You see in that video there you've got on the screen, that then the beard was really robust. I let it grow out really just to piss the wife off, and it worked.
Well, yeah, in this one we actually have you as Santa Claus, and yeah, that beard is looking strong. Well, here's a couple things you said.
It's glorious. Wait, let me take it in for a second. I'm looking at myself on the screen there, and I've shaved it, cut it down so much since then. But look at that thing.
And this was
that's
put
like
up
that's like a movie. That's out of a movie. That's all real, folks.
You look like a movie Santa Claus. This looks like we're about to watch like the Santa Claus 4.
It is, and but remember in the thing, it's because it's not all gray yet. It's like right before he got to the fully mature Santa Claus. He's definitely past the red Kris Kringle beard, but he hasn't gotten to the fully white. I can't believe this old bastard is handing out toys every year age. This one with a little bit of dark in there, it looks like I can still get it done.
Yeah, this looks like the part about, everybody's familiar with Tim Allen's The Santa Claus, and this looks about the part of the movie where he starts getting the boxes of letters shipped to his house and his beard keeps growing back. You're looking about that length right there.
Yeah, there you go. Or, and I think I have a certain raggedness in my eyes that brings to mind Dan Aykroyd at the end of Trading Places when he's, a drunk Santa sitting on the bus. But, I did not drink anything prior to the shooting of that video. That's my pledge to you.
There is a little bit of bad Santa in those eyes, I feel like. Billy Bob
There
Thornton's.
definitely is, yeah. Well, he's one of those actors that I think in his heavier days could have definitely played me.
Oh, yeah. I absolutely
I mean,
agree.
once I saw him in Sling Blade, I'm like, all right, he's got me down. Mm-hmm.
Well, something about your videos, I think you've said this before, and it was the first thing I thought of. I'm a huge Seinfeld fan. I love Larry David. I love Jerry Seinfeld. Yeah. Curb Your Enthusiasm is one of my favorite shows, and I'm so happy they're making episodes again. You have that vibe. You have the kind of like the everyday monotony things we've all thought, but time to talk about it type of comedy.
Yeah. I always tell people that. They say, what are your influences, or how does that kind of manifest? And I always say, I'm somewhere between Jim Gaffigan and Larry David, because Jim Gaffigan is kind of harmless. He talks a lot about food, and it's sort of innocent, relatable observations. And then Larry David brings in a social commentary because he's got a viewpoint about how he would like the world to operate. So on certain ones of my videos where I'm suggesting ways that we could, if we can all agree to certain things, it would be a little better. So like Ed versus Airplanes is very Larry David. Ed versus Elevators, which are my two personal favorites, are very Larry David. Ed versus Concerts, ones where I'm a little bit more, come on, like talking to society. If we can just get our act together, I think we can do a little bit better. And then the other ones, I think, fall a little bit more in sort of that Gaffigan, innocent, a lot of food talk, the cereal, the ice cream, the snacks. So it's somewhere in between the two of them.
That's great, and I think that's a great inspiration. It is because I feel the same way about that humor too. It really is at its core. It's not just making fun of what's happening today. It's acknowledging like we could all just be a little bit better. And I know that I've definitely felt that way about St. Louis drivers. I just feel like that's a big problem out there that I always look around. And I mean, you're a law firm in St. Louis. I feel like you have the numbers to probably show how bad it is. But as a person just driving the streets, it's something I complain about every time I get out. Even in a pandemic, when I'm only getting out one or two times a week now of driving around the city, it's exponential. It's like extra bad out there.
It is. In fact, there are some stats, during the shutdown back in March and April, driving was down 80%, but accidents were only down 50%. So what that shows you is that the people that were out there driving, even with empty roads, they just took advantage of it, drove too fast, too wild, drank, texted, had a grand old time, and still were smashing up their cars. So yeah, we're not, I think a lot of it in St. Louis has to do with the fact that, it's pretty easy out here. We don't get a lot of traffic, so people are used to higher speeds. We don't have particularly windy highways like other places in the country. So I think people just get accustomed to that. And I think that a lot of people are just smacking into each other because your stopping time, no matter how good your car is and how comfortable it feels going fast, it's needs a certain amount of feet to stop in time. And, but that's what keeps me in business. I don't want to see anybody get hurt, but I didn't cause the accident. But if it's going to happen, hopefully we get the call from the innocent party.
Well,
because we only represent the innocents.
You're one of those businesses that like you're glad that you're around when this stuff does happen. Like I saw a commercial the other day that for a crematorium, and they were, and I'm guessing like your numbers are up, and I was like, that's a sad thing to think about, but I was like, somebody's got to do it.
Listen, you know what? People have always talked, and it's always bothered me when people say, "Oh, personal injury lawyers, you earn your living off of the misfortune of others." And I say no more so than an emergency room doctor. Right. Things happen in life. We're there to fix it. We're not causing it. I mean, a cardiologist, nobody ever says they're happy when people have heart attacks or high cholesterol. Nobody ever looks at an oncologist and says, oh, he makes his money because people have cancer. I think it's a popular notion to hate lawyers, and lawyers generally have a pretty good sense of humor. So we don't do a whole lot to defend ourselves. We know that people don't necessarily care for lawyers until they need one, and then we're their best friend.
Yeah, there's
we
definitely
are beloved by our clients.
That's a great point, because that's such a I'd almost say like that. Hopefully that stigma is going away. So that's something that you always have, that stigma of lawyers, oh, this and that. It's like, but yeah, anytime you need one, who's the first person you call when you get in big trouble?
It's killing the messenger for the message. We're used to it. I mean, listen, you got to have a thick skin and a sharp mind to be a lawyer. Mm-hmm. And even more so if you're going to be a litigator, and even more so if you're going to do injury work. But it is the most satisfying work, because we know how it's depicted in the media and the fun that they like to poke at us. But in the real world, we know that we take people in their worst situations and we help them put their life back together. And we hold companies accountable, and we make products safer. And a lot of people like to joke and say, oh, some lawyer ruined this, and that's why there's a warning on this. And I'm like, no. There's a warning on that because a bunch of people got hurt because of that product. And now at least the product still exists. You can still have your phone with it, but at least people have fair warning that, it may not be suitable for all ages. So, we, not to be too serious. I know this is a fun podcast, but we take what we do seriously. And you know what? You got to be able to take a joke. And I think as a profession, we take them, and we wear it like a badge of honor. We don't mind.
That's fantastic. No, I think it's awesome. And it also, and honestly, your videos, just to get on that track too, to talk about, this is where we talk about the people behind, B and C. This started for me with Brown and Crouppen, but now it's like led to a one-on-one conversation with Ed, because, I talked to you last, we got this on the calendar because I just saw a lot of things we had in common personally. And so talking about your videos, I have two more I'm going to feature. And with it being Christmas time, we do have a big special this week. I told you about it. It's the Batman Returns Christmas special. Are you a Batman and Batman Returns film? Of course, the Michael Keaton Batman is who we're talking about here.
Yes, I am a fan.
Well,
I'll tell you a funny story after you show this about Batman Returns that involved my son when he was a small kid. It was very funny.
I want to hear it, because what we're going to do is we're going to show the Christmas Ed's favorite things right now. We're going to help you pick out a few things that you might be looking for, some last-minute gift ideas. I've already watched this personally myself a couple times, and we'll highlight the first couple, and then the last video we're going to highlight in today's interview. Get excited, Batman fans. It's Ed versus the Dark Knight, so we'll talk about that one here in just shortly. For now, let's look at Ed's favorite things. And for you watching on YouTube, it's a very special treat. It's Santa Claus.
You think your man is hard to shop for? We are a piece of cake. Watch this. Little known fact about Ed Herman. When I was 19, 20 years old, I spent 2 years working as a mall Santa. I can't tell you how many times I've heard people say, I can't buy my husband a gift. I can't buy my boyfriend a gift. I don't know what to get for my father. Listen, we're men and we're easy. And in the next few minutes, I'm going to show you the best products that I have found that every guy is going to love. And everything I'm going to show to you can be purchased for under $100, and most of it for less than $50. Boom. Now, for most of you who know me, know that Weekend Ed likes to wear tracksuits. This actually came recommended to me by one of you. They make old school 1975 vintage style velour tracksuits, but this color is just pure baller. I had a couch this color.
And what are those called again? Sweatcetos?
Sweatceto.com is the company. And they actually shared this video on their social media twice. So I think it might be helping them move some product.
I had to pause because, again, this is a podcast too. Listeners, this is another plug on our YouTube channel. Get over to some nice visuals. We can see Ed in this sweatceto.
Yes, and that color is officially called burnt orange.
And that's the color of a couch you had, and there's a picture of your couch. What year is that? What year was that picture taken?
That would be about 1976. Those were my dogs, Brandy and Muffin, and that was my burnt orange couch that sat in my living room my whole life until I moved to St. Louis.
I feel like that color should just be called 1976.
It really should be. I mean, you didn't know it at the time, but it was such a glorious time.
It was on cars. It was on the General Lee.
It was. And we had colors back then. I don't know what happened to those colors. Half the things we had were mustard.
All right, let's keep it going.
I don't care if you're sitting around on a poker night or you're just watching Sunday football. Every guy looks good in one of these. Very sexy. That's velour, baby. That's American hustle. It's beautiful. I know what you're thinking. You're looking at me saying, yeah, that covers the outfit, but tell me about these shoes. These are Allbirds, wool runners. This is the most comfortable, sturdy, the best shoe you will ever put on your foot. I have been wearing my Allbirds for over...
Yeah, I'm going to jump in. Are you wearing them right now?
I am. I just took it off, and I'm showing it on my video.
So this is where, like, I always my first brain goes, if I'm listening to this, like, commercialism. It's like, you actually back this product.
I back all of these products.
These are
these
ones
people
that
did not
use.
I would use every single one of these. Otherwise, I wouldn't have shared it because I could have picked whatever I wanted. Nobody was paying me anything for it.
Yeah.
I really just had a sincere desire because people always say they never know what to get me as a present. And I'm like, me? Do you pay attention to me at all? I wear hats, I wear sunglasses, and I wear tracksuits. How hard could it be?
No, it's super inspiring to me just as a podcaster. The one thing I'm being very mindful of are the types of advertisers and sponsorships that I bring into my show. I'm trying to be more personal, and what I've come to the conclusion is I already subscribe to so many types of products and brands that I use in my everyday life. So that's where I'm starting, and it seems like this is something similar. Like, you're wearing the suit, you've always worn the
Exactly.
suit. And now these Allbirds, I've heard of these, so they're super comfortable.
They're phenomenal, and they're under $100 for a pair. They last a really long time, and I'm telling you, I've not worn a pair of socks in 2 years. And people say, oh, don't your feet smell? They don't, because these are made of merino wool. And if anybody knows anything about merino wool, it's almost like having charcoal in there. There's no smell. There's a company that I did not include that I probably should have called Unbound Merino, which makes T-shirts. And not to say you'd wear the same T-shirt a bunch of days in a row, but if you were to, you would not smell. It does not retain smell. It's unbelievable.
No way.
So, yeah, look it up. Unbound Merino. Get yourself a couple of black T-shirts. They're not cheap, but they hold up really well. And they will not keep a smell. I got to give credit to Andy Crouppen, who forced me to smell his pits.
Oh my God!
I had no idea why.
The only test is to smell someone.
Yeah, well, the thing is that when your partner says "smell my pits," we're like we're like kids.
Yeah.
So I mean, if you're so I'm like, all right, who am I to say no? I smell his pits. I'm like, yeah, they smell fine. He says, how many days in a row do you think I've worn this shirt? I said, I have no idea. He says, this is day 4. Day 4, same shirt, and I don't wear deodorant. And I said, well, that's amazing.
What you're telling
and then
me
I
right
went
now
out and
is
bought the
it's
product.
changing the game. You're talking about laundry like they finally invented laundry that can't stink.
Yeah. I mean, maybe after 2 weeks, who knows? All I know is he took it to the 4-day mark, made me smell his pits. I had no idea why. And I have to be honest, they smelled like a summer morning. They didn't smell bad.
That's great. Well, let's look at one more. I'm going to pull up my favorite item that you had in your video today. I mentioned this to you before. Let's watch this one real quick, then jump into some questions before we look at the next one.
They give the typical phone 2 full charges.
Got a little before there.
Attention,
I do like that
all
charger, though.
side sleepers. The Pillow Cube. It gives you just enough spring back so that if your head is on it, it keeps your head at a perfect side angle. I started off thinking it was just going to be for travel. It wasn't just for travel. Then I thought maybe I can use it for naps. And now it's my EDP, my everyday pillow. And I know what you're thinking. You're thinking, those are spectacular pajamas. I would love to see my man look adorable like that. Well, he can, and he should. It doesn't matter if you're the big spoon or the little spoon. Everyone's gonna want to cuddle with you when you're wearing this. You know what this is? This is like when a guy buys a woman lingerie and you say, well, that's really more a present for him than it is for her. This is the same thing in reverse.
All right, what are those pajamas called?
Yeah, those are, they're at peterchristianoutfitters.com. I call them Ebenezer Scrooge pajamas.
Yes.
And, they come with the matching sleeping cap, the stocking cap, which is really what makes it so adorable. They're they're soft and comfortable as can be. When I saw it come up in my feed, I thought, I'm just the kind of guy that would pull that off. So what I did was I ordered them. And my daughter, who's only 12, she's 11, she'll be 12 in April. She was having a sleepover. And I said to her as a joke, like a day before, I wore these pajamas with the sleeping cap. I went up to Caroline. I said, Caroline, do you mind tomorrow night when your friends are over, if I come into the room like this and like tell everybody to quiet down, that Big Daddy needs to rest? And she was not embarrassed at all. And she insisted that I do it. That's her sense of humor. She said, oh my God, Dad, you have to do that. That will be legendary. And so sure enough, the next night, she texts me. She says, come up with the pajamas. I toddle in there and I'm like, girls, you're going to have to keep it there.
Oh man,
Yeah.
That's great.
This is a hard stop. Big Daddy's got to get his beauty rest. And they were just rolling, thinking it was so funny, but they're adorable pajamas.
You look like you should be on the box for these pajamas. Like you should be on, like you're the mascot. I feel like,
you know what? They're currently using a much more handsome man in their ad. But honestly,
that's an objective statement, subjective,
Well, it is. But I will say that I think I sell the product a little bit better because with him, that guy's going to be handsome, whether he's in those pajamas or not. Whereas for me, my level of adorableness shot through the roof with the addition of the pajamas. I'm the guy they want to go after. I'm the market.
Well, before the actual, I had to highlight the pajamas because you can't see it and not talk about it. But the pillow, so I just recently, my listeners know this, I threw my back out like 2 weeks ago, and it's the second time it's ever happened. It's something that's like new to me. And
you're getting older. Welcome.
It was terrible. And I did a whole episode from a zero gravity chair so that I could still record. I'm a side sleeper, so that's been tough. As you're always trying to figure out the right pillow balance, like 2 pillows here, 1 between the legs. Okay. Oh, I feel like I need to hold on to one. Sometimes you feel like I'm like, I've lately thought like a body pillow might be like the way to go.
Yeah.
Then I have a fiance. I'm like, well, just turn over, This is a pillow cube. So what's the deal with the pillow cube?
The pillow cube is made for a side sleeper, and I get the 7-inch version because they have a smaller one or a larger one. The 7-inch, I think, for a guy makes sense. And just what happens is it has just the right amount of firmness so that your neck is never, in a permanent side, crick position, and it keeps your back straight. I have it right next door. I got 2 of them. I have one that I travel with and one that I use on a nightly basis. I've tried every pillow. I'm one of those guys that I'm such an easy mark to want to at least try something. And I thought, I could do videos all day long about just telling people these are the products that actually do what you think they say they're going to do. These products are crap. I've tried everything from the My Pillow, which is very inexpensive, all the way up to some fancy pillow.
So that if your head is on,
sorry about that.
That was like a $400 pillow, and it's like concrete. And I actually like that pillow too. And I've tried everything in between, everything you can get at a Brookstone, everything you can get at Bed Bath & Beyond. I saw this thing come up on my feed, and I said, well, that's just speaking right to me. And I started using it. I've turned a lot of people onto Pillow Cube.
Yeah, I think I'm just gonna have to like it's. I'll tell my fiance I need it for Christmas, but I just gotta buy
You know
one.
what? It's not that expensive, and you know what? You can crush it down to get into a suitcase because I got the same size for travel. I just, I didn't want it, one that had been in hotel rooms to also be on my bed at home. It's a weird germ thing.
Yeah, that makes sense.
But yeah, you can mush that down and zip it into a pretty small space.
Well, like even nice pillows, the nice ones. You always see it like Bed Bath and Beyond. Like they're expensive, $120. So I feel like this is less
Hey,
than $100, right?
you talk to any pillow guy, the first thing they're going to say, it's a bed for your head. Show me something else you're going to lean against 8 hours a day, and I'll tell you where you should spend your money.
That's awesome. Well,
I can move pillows.
before,
If the law doesn't work out, I'm telling you, I can move pillows.
yeah, if Brown and Crouppen goes under, you've got a job at Pillow Cube, I'm sure.
That's it.
Before we get
I'll
into
take
the
it.
last, we call it the meat around here, the big chunk of our episode, I really do want to talk about this Dark Knight video, and I want to go through. It's a nice list of what you've quantified, really, as how Batman is breaking so many laws throughout the Dark Knight Rises movie, and I definitely want to talk through them with you. But before we get there, I did want to ask you. So, Ed, you're a very successful lawyer. You've made it big in terms of that. Your career is there. It seems like the YouTube side of things is fairly new in your life within the last recent, how many years I'd ask. And then my question is, where are you going from here? What do you like about this? What's been the most fulfilling part of the work? And maybe do you have a next big project that you wanted to highlight and that you could tell us about?
Well, I will say that, it really has allowed me to tap into my creative side. I was always a guy growing up that people always thought had a good sense of humor and always had a viewpoint. But I never found a great vehicle for getting it out there. And this really opened up and became that thing. I had written a couple of books, not the kind that you can buy in the store, just the kind that if you come over to my house, I can show it to you because I printed it off of the computer. And there were good things in there where a lot of observational stories and commentary, but I didn't get to perform it, do the performance side of it. And these videos kind of let me do both. So I don't know what's going to be next as far as the big picture goes. I'm still waiting to get discovered so I can put the whole practice of law behind me and do something much more fun. But that's a needle in a haystack. But who knows? People say get an agent. I say I wouldn't even know where to find an agent. I don't know how any of that works. But anyway, who knows? The next project I'm working on, I'm very excited about it. It's going to be an Ed versus Bathrooms, and what's going to be special about this one, I feel like it could be my magnum opus because I'm really going to. I'm not going to play it for cheap laughs at all. It's a very serious look, although it's funny, but it is a hard look at all of the things that I think are commonly held experiences for people who have to use a public bathroom or a bathroom at a friend's house. It is almost like a psychological exploration of the notions of shame and things that the taboos that we're not allowed to talk about. But my plan is to keep it very clean and very elevated, and not just play it for cheap laughs. So I'm very excited about this one. We would have had it done already, but for COVID, it's going to require a few different locations. I need to demonstrate a variety of locks, which locks are acceptable, which locks cause anxiety, which locks fail too often, and which of the locks you really want to see. And that's just one little piece of it. But I have a feeling that's going to be, that's going to be my tour de force. That everything I'm doing is going into that. We also have 4 new episodes of 3 Lawyers Eating Sandwiches that are going to be coming out throughout the winter, including one starting on Thursday that we did on the O'Connell's pub right there next to the hill, and we were featuring their burgers and their roast beef sandwich and their Coney Island. And we did it very safely. It's our first COVID filmed episode, so it'll feel very, very much in the time, in the zeitgeist of what's going on, I guess, right now. And since my 2 partners are fleeing to Florida for the summer and working remotely from there, we've already shot episodes at Nomad, which had unbelievable food. If they're relatively new, they open in February. If you have not had Nomad, you are missing out on one of the great joys that has come to St. Louis. We also have Max Local Eats coming out, which I've wanted to do Max since the day we started the show. And the only reason we didn't lead with Max is we thought, well, it's hamburgers. I think we need to establish some sandwich places first before we branch out into hamburgers, as if the public is even paying attention to that. But in our mind, we had to establish the concept within sandwiches. But Max Local Eats, just the most unbelievable burgers. And then we discovered a brand new place.
I'll pause you there because I'm a Max Local Eats loyalist. I love their burgers. In my mind, I didn't even know what my favorite hamburger was until I had Max Local Eats.
And do you have a burger of choice when you go there?
Yes, I get the. I always butcher the name because it's in Spanish, but I think it's the Diablo.
I like the lumberjack.
Yes.
I think that's pretty genius.
The Louis
and then there's
is a crowd favorite. The Louis is a crowd favorite.
Yeah, and there's one that's a play on the word Max. I don't remember what they call it, but that one I got introduced to when we filmed the episode. Because I'm one of those guys that once I find something I love at a place, I tend to get it whenever I go there, because the whole reason I'm going there is probably because I was craving that thing. So I'll always go for the lumberjack. But of course, in these episodes, we try 4 or 5 different things. So I tried this other one, Southside Mac, I think it's called. And all of a sudden I'm like, oh no, I think the lumberjack might have just gotten replaced. Now I've got to alternate. They're both so good. And then there's a new place that we discovered called The Dam, which is near Tara Grove Park on, what's the name of that street? It goes all the way from Tara Grove Park all the way to the Bevo Mill.
Arsenal, Gravois.
No. It's the other street there.
St. Louis listeners, you're getting your money's worth today. We're giving you a whole list of places.
Oh yeah, The Dam. Let me tell you, we had some amazing food there, and their Belgian French fries with their variety of dipping sauces. That was heaven. That was heaven. So those episodes will be coming out over the course of the winter. And that's something that I've really enjoyed too, is I like making these, but honestly, my favorite part of the process is the editing. I edit them along with somebody at Cool Fire who knows how to technically work the machines, but we sit there and collaborate, and we to me, that's the fun of it. That's when we know what all of our supplies are there. We know what the footage we have. We know what's at our disposal. And then that's where we have to craft it into something that's sharp and well-paced and, and just goes through. I mean, if you'd have seen all the footage from this Favorite Things episode, there's over an hour of footage.
Right.
And there was a lot of great stuff in there. And we intentionally left the video just over 10 minutes because we wanted to do an experiment with video length, and we wanted something just over 10 minutes. So there's all sorts of little business decisions that play into that. But man, carving down 60 minutes of pretty good material down to 10. It's a big task, but it's a lot of fun.
Yeah, I would say that's a good place to wrap up before we start this next video. Is I would definitely want to highlight the folks over at Cool Fire, but if just talking about your experience, people that watch these videos, they're highly produced. They're they're shot and then produced in 4K. It looks like they're unbelievable.
Yeah.
Just why don't you go ahead and tell us about your what's it been like making these videos, and feel free to highlight anybody that you want to highlight here.
Let me tell you. Well, I will say Cool Fire is just the best studio to work with. We're very lucky to have them in St. Louis. Every position that they have there is somebody who really is a master craftsman at their role. Jeremy Corey is who I, collaborate with, and he directs me on these. And, he'll let me know if my energy is good. He'll let me know. He'll say, try it again. That wasn't crisp, but he's good to have in the room. And then the editors that I work with, Roxanne, and in the past I've worked with Wes. Wes actually came out of retirement to edit the Favorite Things episode because we were on a tight timetable. All those people, the people that work on the graphics, the people that do the audio, every one of them adds an element. And I'll give you the best example real quick, because I know you want to show this video, but on Ed versus Airplanes, that was the first Emmy I ever won. And that one was for Best Lifestyle Program. And I promise you that it's not just the content of what I'm saying and my performance. it was the cool fire people. Because when I had envisioned it, I thought I was going to say, okay, I'm going to sit in a chair. I'm going to put 2 blank chairs next to me, and I'm just going to ask the audience to imagine we're in an airplane, and I'm going to do my thing. And they're the ones that said, you know what, we can get some airplane seats off of eBay. We can build a little something to actually make it look like you're in an airplane. We could bring in some extras, and we could really make this thing look real. And I'm like, really? And they're like, oh yeah, we can do all that. And by the time it was done, it looks so well produced. If they hadn't done that, there's no way that it wins the Emmy.
Right.
Just, not on the, I mean, it's great, but not on the performance. You need the whole production value.
It's one of my favorite ones as well of yours, because again, it's that, like, that everyday humor and airplanes.
Yeah.
You gave spins on it that I feel like had not been acknowledged in the past. And I really, truly believed that it was within an airplane for at least the first couple minutes. And then only because I know Jeremy, I'm like, oh, they probably got to put this together. How amazing.
Yeah, we got airplane seats off of eBay for $700, and we're like, you know what? That's a lot for one piece, but it's going to make this whole video, and everything else will just make sense once we have it. And that also is something that I'm very careful about on my editing. I like to respect professional comedians and the materials that they've come up with.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not familiar with every routine out there. But like, if I feel like certain observations have already been made well, made commonly, I cut them out. So like in the airplanes, Jerry Seinfeld did a very famous routine about airplanes and the shaving in the bathrooms and how everything is little. And so I didn't do any of that. Ellen DeGeneres has done some great stuff on airplanes. I tried to avoid anything that was like that. And same with the elevators video. I made no reference to people keep pressing the button even though it's already lit, because comedically that territory's been covered so heavily. I really wanted to hit things that I knew I had not heard anywhere else.
Well, and I think that's what kept me coming back, in the early days of, like, whenever I was like, who is Ed Herman? And I watched these videos, I thought, okay, an airplane one. I thought, you could be on there saying like, hey, where's the black box? As if that hasn't been said for 100 years.
Right. Why isn't the whole plane made out of it?
Exactly. No, it was original. And I kept finding myself saying like, oh, that isn't new. I haven't thought of it that way. So, yeah, hilarious. And if you haven't already, go, we've talked a lot about Ed being on YouTube. But why don't you tell them specifically where they can find you? It's something that I've always wanted to make sure it was crystal clear.
Yeah, the best way to do it is to go to a special website we have set up, which is as easy to use as Netflix. You do getbctv.com, getbctv.com. And it takes you not to our firm's webpage, but it takes you to a page that we asked the designers, make it look like Netflix, make it really easy to find any of the shows. And if they want to binge watch, it'll just play through their playlist. And so that's how it's set up. And they can watch the 3 Lawyers Eating Sandwiches, which the original name of that show was going to be 3 Fat Lawyers Eating Sandwiches. And they discouraged us from calling ourselves fat. And I said, if we call ourselves fat, it will dramatically cut down on the number of people who feel the need to call us fat in the comments. But they said, no, nowadays we want to be more sensitive. Just call it 3 Lawyers Eating Sandwiches. So we did. And now every episode, it's look at these fat guys. So, sometimes they listen to me, sometimes they don't listen to me. Either way, that series was kind of inspired by Comedians in Cars Getting Coffee.
Right.
That's sort of like our spin on that. And we really wanted to co-brand and connect ourselves with businesses in both St. Louis and Kansas City that we thought, we love those places. They can use the free advertising. And we really do believe in the foods there. So why not? And those places have just been enormously appreciative.
Well, and just to highlight, getbctv.com. Did I get that right? Getbctv.com.
Yes.
You guys, I know that you guys have not just, great content around food and your take on, everyday stuff. You also have like content for kids, right? Do you have like a cartoon?
We do. That won an Emmy in 2019 for as a public service announcement. It's Terry's Safety Squad, and it is a well animated. I mean, it looks like Saturday morning cartoons. It was done so professionally. There's even a musical episode, and in the musical episode, that is Terry Crouppen doing his own singing. I was with him at the recording studio as he did it. I can't say he got through the entire song in one take smoothly, but that there's no enhancements done there. That is his actual singing voice. And in that, I get to play the bad guy, the bad idea bandit, who always comes into these episodes to try to convince kids to do things they're not supposed to do. And then Terry's safety squad comes in and prevents it from happening and teaches a valuable lesson. But that was a blast. You want to talk about a dream come true? Getting a chance to do a voice of an animated character. I mean, that was a dream for me. I don't use my regular voice. I put on a voice that I think goes with that character. So
yeah, I hear you. That's a dream of mine to do within the next, maybe 5 years. I'd love to be able to at least get on at one animated show at some point. I love talking too much, not to put me in a cartoon.
It is a lot of fun being in that recording studio with the script that just has your lines highlighted and nobody else around, and you just go through and they're guiding you as to what the vibe is in the scene.
Mm-hmm.
And on every line, I'll give them 3 or 4 different versions of it, and then let them decide sort of what makes the most sense, so it flows naturally with all the other stuff. But that's a blast, and it's a lot less work, I'll tell you, than going in and recording one of these.
We have a lot of parents that listen to the show because we talk about a lot of different types of TV shows. We cover a lot of the superhero shows on the CW, so just some parents are like, I don't want to watch that. But we've had dads write us and say, I can talk to my kids about this show. What could parents out there get out of your animated series?
The animated series is very much made for kids. I don't want people to think like it's a sophisticated animated series like The Simpsons that works for adults and kids. The animated series is for kids. There's an episode about how to deal with dogs that you're not familiar with. There's an episode about not getting lost when you're in stores, or what to do if you are lost in the mall. There's an episode about safe, riding your bicycle and skateboards near traffic, things to do. We make them entertaining. We make them funny for kids. It's the kind of humor that kids will get a kick out of. Watching Terry Crouppen, who's not the most fit man, the animated version of him, squeezing into his superhero costume and struggling with it. Kids find that hysterical. And then, of course, like I say, the musical episode was all about Stranger Danger. So those they can get on. They're all at getbctv.com. There's 4 episodes, and you will think you're watching Saturday morning cartoons. Our inspiration was like Schoolhouse Rock. They don't all have music in them, but I grew up with Schoolhouse Rock, and we're like, you know what? These would come on during a commercial break on ABC. They would teach us something, for 3 or 4 minutes. And it stuck with us. I mean, I still know all of those old Schoolhouse Rock things. So we said, well, maybe we can get these kids hooked early on knowing who we are and maybe having a positive opinion of us. We do not talk about the law or hawk our services in the animated videos, or really any of the videos. We figure we have plenty of commercials that do that. We really try to make the videos about entertainment, keep people's attention.
Well, and I believe that 100%. I mean, the truth is I only have folks on this show that give me those good personal vibes. You guys are just trying to be out here helping people. That's always been crystal clear to me. And again, just love talking to you today, Ed, about your videos. And with that, I think we should focus on the last one. This is a perfect timing with Christmas and our Batman special coming up this week. With that, we're going to actually have a special treat for you today. We're going to feature one of our segments in Logan's Heroes for the first time. We've never done this before, but let's go ahead and do it.
The meat.
So the meat, Ed, again, this is like the chunk, the sizzle. This is the part of the show that, you're really looking forward to, and you just want to really get into the meat of what we're talking about. I really want to spend some time on your Dark Knight, Ed versus the Dark Knight video. Do you want to give a little setup here, and we'll start?
Let me start by saying, I'm a huge Batman fan. I grew up watching reruns of the Adam West series, and with no exaggeration, to my mind, Adam West is still the best Batman. I love that show in that I loved it as a child because I took it seriously. I loved it as an adult because I recognized how funny it was, and I thought, well, that's just brilliant. The Tim Burton films I enjoyed very much, but when the Christian Bale films came out, I really felt like they had nailed it, and particularly The Dark Knight, because I think The Dark Knight is the best of any superhero movie that's ever been made. It captures you right from the opening sequence with the bank heist. He is the most interesting take on the villain that we've seen. Great performances from everybody. Moral dilemmas, debates about what the right thing to do is, whether it's about the two fairies, or whether it's about even when it's appropriate to use certain technologies that make us safer but take away our freedoms, because that's been such a big theme ever since 9/11. So I just felt like The Dark Knight was the best. That said, he is the Dark Knight, and he is a vigilante, and as such does break a lot of laws. And I thought it would be fun to do a video. It's actually Jeremy's idea. Fun to how would a lawyer look at it and judge the crimes of the Joker versus the crimes of Batman. And so that's why we did the video.
Well, fantastic. And I'm very excited to start it for you guys. I think this one's only about 6 minutes. We're going to play this one through, if that's all right. And I might pause and jump in along the way.
Yeah.
I think that sounds fun. We do.
And in hindsight, we should have cut it down to 5 minutes. I do think the video is about a minute long.
Just a minute too.
It was our first video. We were just learning.
All right. Well, with that, let's just go ahead and dive in to Ed versus The Dark Knight.
How many laws does Batman break in The Dark Knight? Let's take a look. I'm Ed Herman. I'm a lawyer with the law firm Brown and Crouppen. And on this episode of Ed versus the Movies, let's take a look at the legalities of The Dark Knight. Right out of the gate, the Batmobile. Folks, it's not street legal. I'm not even allowed to tint my windows past a certain point, and I'm a man who enjoys his privacy. Well, that's not street legal.
Now I have to jump in right away. And now I know it's all about Batman breaking the rules, right? This is him breaking the laws. But we got to give credit where he's due. He is a vigilante.
He is a vigilante. He is doing what is expected of him as a vigilante. A vigilante who doesn't take the law into his own hands, by definition, is not a vigilante.
True. Let's watch more of this damage from the Batmobile, because this next part is awesome.
That's not safe. Watch the movie closely. How much property damage is caused by the Joker, and how much of it is actually caused by Batman? Batman, he destroys Scarecrow's vehicle for really no great reason, to be honest with you. We don't even see Scarecrow commit a crime.
Is that true?
That's true. When it opens, we assume that he was doing something involving drugs. We never actually see it. He's already, sort of in the parking lot, or hunting them down. But let me tell you something. You can't jump on somebody's vehicle like that. That's excessive force. He could have crushed their heads in. For what? A little weed?
Yeah, I guess we're big nerds on the show. Batman's one of our favorite characters, and I'll just say this: PC Mike and the Giggler. Those are two of our recurring personalities on the show. They're gonna be very jealous they're not part of this combo today. I guess so. He's watching. He sees the Scarecrow from the first movie, so he's just like, "Oh, there's Scarecrow again. I'm just gonna jump down and crush his van in from the top."
Yeah, I mean, there may have been more to it, but they certainly don't tell us about it.
I mean, he doesn't. He just shows up in a garage. Batman basically takes down every street pole in the place. There was an entire building that was under construction at the end of the movie that he has now blown out. Let's talk about who's going to pay for this property damage. Now, I know Bruce Wayne is a billionaire. Even if Bruce Wayne wanted to underwrite all of this, he can't, because he would out himself as Batman. And that's just the property damage in the United States. That doesn't account with all the damage he does in China. I don't know if you've ever had to fix even one window. One window is like, I can't believe that it's just glass. This was all of the windows. And what does it get them? Think about it.
So I'll pause there. Talking about, there's a couple of the best scenes in the whole movie, right? The one where he wraps the rope with his motorcycle, flips the semi. You never really thought about it. I mean, just the amount of damage. And then the building he does, blow up. Like, who is paying for that? What's going to happen in the real world?
I mean, and some poor sucker out there has to clean that up. Think about that guy. You got a street cleaner. He's out there with like a broom and one of those things, cleaning up like glass like nobody's ever seen in their life. And, all of these poles, those poles aren't going to lift themselves. I mean, you're talking about a tremendous, tremendous amount of damage. And then you'll see as you go on that this whole mission to China yields them nothing. at the end of the day.
Well,
They don't get one
no,
conviction.
he was
out of it.
going there to get what's his name, who had all the info on all the crime bosses that Harvey
Right.
was trying to convict, but they couldn't
Mhm.
extradite him because he was in China. So
Yes.
Batman went and got him and brought him back and delivered him to the Commissioner Gordon.
And then what happened?
And then he gives them
They
all
arrested.
they make the deal.
They arrested all the criminals.
They arrested all the criminals.
The Joker winds up killing the judge, and the DA drops everything, and they never prosecute any of the crimes because they're afraid to. So
Yeah.
there's not actually one conviction that comes out of that whole turning over evidence that the guy has.
And to get that guy, he had a plane drop him off, and then he parachutes out of it by the plane, picking him up and destroying that whole like floor of that office where he busts in China.
Exactly. And let me tell you something. People worked hard to build that. I mean, nobody wants to see their work wrecked.
What do you
Just
think
makes
happens?
you shake your head.
What do you think happens in real world if like a guy from presumably America is dressed up as a bat, he's a superhero, but then he came over to China, took this guy out? What happens in the real world?
I think they kill him. I think they kill him in a variety of different ways. Because he's violating the airspace. These people have. If he thinks he has more advanced technology than China, he's nuts. This is China.
All right, let's keep it going.
Lau goes back to the United States. He leaves him on the doorstep of the police station.
Here we go.
Lau says, well, I'm not going to tell you where the money is, but I'll flip on all of these mobsters that I've been protecting. So the mobsters temporarily get arrested. Do they ever get prosecuted? No. Nobody has the guts to prosecute these people. What's it all for, Batman? Was it worth it? Was it worth it? And I love the film. I don't get this wrong. Let's talk for a second about immunity. But there's no such thing as superhero immunity. Batman, God love him, he never got any police training. Okay? If you recall from Batman Begins, his training basically came from like a ninja guy. No.
All right, I'm gonna jump in because this is huge Batman lore. So I have to. My nerd fans will be going, did he just call all of them ninja guys? This is Ra's al Ghul in the League of Shadows, so some pretty official training.
Yes, but ninja training. In all fairness, I don't remember them.
It is ninja training.
It is ninja training. I'm just saying that ninja training is not police training.
He didn't get like the same sensitivity training that hopefully most police
No,
officers are
he
going through.
didn't get all the rules about when to draw your weapon and when not, when to pursue and when not to pursue. I mean, there's a lot of rules about becoming a police officer, and it's very different than the ninja.
Well, and this is why Christian Bale's Batman was so good. Just to really nerd out with you for a minute, Batman Begins, what happens is Ra's al Ghul, the ninja leader, he tells Batman, he's like, all right, one last test, kill this guy. And that's when everything goes haywire in Batman Begins. So he does make the right call.
Yeah, well, listen, there's no question that he has moral lines. That's what separates him ultimately from the Joker.
Yep.
Is that one of them was willing to do anything, and one of them had a boundary.
Mm-hmm.
And that's sort of what the Joker says to him. Says, listen, you'll never beat me because you think there are rules and you're going to be bound by them. And you're never going to beat a person who doesn't feel bound by the rules. So that sort of sets that up. The question is that Batman's boundary, though, seems to be well beyond massive property damage, but somewhere ahead of, knowingly killing an innocent person. It's somewhere in the middle. It's in the gray.
Do you think like he's like, surely maybe this is Bruce Wayne in the background. Maybe he, sends a little money here, sends a little money here. He's like, ooh, I messed up that semi yesterday. I better send a check anonymously.
You know what? He couldn't possibly afford to do that. The amount of damage done. They blew up a hospital. Have you ever seen?
Yeah.
Now, he didn't blow up the hospital in all fairness, so I don't know that I can put that on him. But, when they build a hospital, I mean, those things cost billions.
Yeah.
I mean, how many I don't know from the comics. Do they ever say how many billions Bruce Wayne is worth?
I think it's pretty vague, and it's vague in everything. You have to like determine from his amount of what does he do? Like in Dark Knight Rises, he's literally like showing up and going with a helicopter everywhere he goes with like 2 girls on his arm. So I'm like, okay, I guess he's like 20 billion.
Yeah, I don't know. You can have a helicopter if you've got 2-3 billion, but you cannot repair. Yeah, 2-3 billion. I mean, look, I don't want to get political. Donald Trump has a helicopter. He's only worth $2-3 billion.
There you go.
You can have it. Of course, he probably still owes money on it. That's neither here nor there. I don't know if Bruce Wayne has got, George Lucas money. I don't know if he's up at that level. He's, I think, in around the $6 billion to $8 billion range. No, I would say Bruce Wayne better have more than that. And quite frankly, how could he have gotten that much? It just seems like a lot.
It does seem like a lot, especially when his parents were just like, it seems like they were billionaires that had like a couple companies and they were running the city.
Well,
But
they couldn't have been.
They?
Yeah, they couldn't have been billionaires. I don't think that this country had its first billionaire until after the Waynes would have died.
Okay.
He would have had to have turned that fortune into $1 billion and then beyond that. And I mean, with what education and training? He was a kid.
Yeah.
Who taught him everything? Just Alfred? I mean, come on. If Alfred was that smart, why isn't he a billionaire?
Well, maybe he just likes hanging out and taking care of billionaires. Have you seen the show Gotham, the TV series?
I saw it at the very beginning, but I didn't stick with it. I got to get back to it.
I'm the same as you. I watched it in the beginning, stopped, and then this past year, actually, we watched it, and it's great. I mean, it's a lot. It's a lot of episodes.
Very quick thing I have to insert, because just in case anybody who listens to this whole thing, I promised you that quick story about my son Brody and Batman Returns.
Yes.
And as you know, the character, the Penguin's character name of it was Oswald Cobblepot. So my son was maybe 6 years old, and my wife picks him up at school, and she says, "Oh, you should really become friends with that new boy that just moved to town and joined your class." And she said, "What's his name again?" And he said his name is Oswald, which it was. And she said, "Really? That's an unusual name. What's his last name?" And my son said Cobblepot, and we all call him the Penguin. And my wife had no idea what he was talking about. And he wasn't even trying to be funny. He just, little kids don't remember anybody's name. And it was so ingrained in his head that Cobblepot was Oswald's last name. She said, "Cobblepot? Well, that's a strange last name." He goes, "Yeah, that's why we all call him the Penguin." She doesn't know these movies. She had no idea. She tells me the story afterward. And I said, "What did he say his name was?" She said something like Oswald Cobblepot. I'm like, "That's the Penguin." She goes, that's why he said they called him the Penguin. I'm like, I don't think he got the kid's name right, huh?
Yeah, it sounds
like
so
I don't think
we don't think this kid's name is actually Oswald Cobblepot, right?
No, he definitely. Let me say this: it's definitely not.
I hope you meet this kid, and he looks just like Danny DeVito from the movie.
That would be great. Well, his first name really was Oswald.
That is great. That's fantastic, and it sounds like you're starting these kids off right, knowing who Batman is that young.
You got to train them right from when they're young.
I've said it on here, so I think I have to stick to it at this point. But I believe I'm dressing up as Oswald Cobblepot for our Christmas special.
Well, I think that's first of all, it's a great costume. It's by far the scariest Penguin that I think has ever been depicted. I think Danny DeVito doesn't get enough credit as an actor in general. Really, he's had a brilliant career. So many parts he was able to find for himself, despite his out of the ordinary appearance. And I thought his performance as the Penguin is. I mean, he really made that part his own. Doesn't get nearly enough credit. Everybody always goes gaga over whoever plays Joker, but his Penguin's a great Penguin.
I agree. We agree too. We were saying, I don't know if you're a Always Sunny in Philadelphia fan, but we were saying that he was training for Frank Reynolds whenever he was like eating that fish as the Penguin. No.
Yeah, but I mean, think about it. When he goes into the water at the end there, it's emotional. I mean, that's a sad moment. You feel a lot of sympathy for him, and that's the only time I could think of where you really had much sympathy for any of the Batman villains until the movie Joker, which is it's probably a separate discussion for a separate day. Obviously, that turns the whole thing on its ear, and you have a lot of sympathy for him. But until that moment, I think that moment of Penguin dying is that moment.
I agree, and it sounds like we're just gonna have to have you back on the show, God willing.
Oh yeah, I mean, anytime. I got nothing else going on.
Perfect, because we flush this stuff out. We talk about our favorite Jokers. And Batman is definitely one of our top heroes. We talk about all the time. So with that, let's get back to Ed versus the Dark Knight. Only a couple minutes left here, and definitely some more I want to highlight.
No knock on that. Ninja training is not police training. You see, and a couple of words that do not come up: due process. They have the right to remain silent. Yeah, they don't have to talk. They don't have to say anything that's going to incriminate themselves, right? Their right to an attorney. What does Batman do when he decides to get information out of Maroni? He holds them over the side of a building, and yeah, folks, he drops it. For the rest of the movie, every time Maroni was on with that cane, I felt bad for the guy. Batman breaks laws left and right just to satisfy his own purpose. But the big one, the surveillance. He basically takes away every citizen's privacy in Gotham just so he can try to catch one guy. And Lucius Fox calls him on it, right? And Batman thinks he's this gentleman who said, we're gonna use it one time and then we're gonna destroy the technology. But there is your legal slippery slope. Because one time is all it takes. Because then the next time it'll be some other criminal, or some other terrorist, or some other villain. This is the ultimate betrayal. Batman, again, I love you, but that is illegal surveillance, that is invasion of privacy, and that's everybody's privacy to catch one guy.
All right, yeah, we're definitely gonna pause there because that is something that I actually have thought about pretty hard. And we've watched a lot of stuff and rewatched a ton this year. The Dark Knight trilogy is definitely up there. And Carrie, my fiance, her and I agreed on exactly what you're saying. When this part came up, we both kind of were going, "Ooh, oh my, that's not good."
Yeah, well, they knew that. I mean, that was sort of what Christopher Nolan was going for there, because that's what we were confronting. This was a very big theme after 9/11. And, figuring out where are we going to draw the lines now about how much of our personal freedom will we give up in the name of safety. And that was sort of the ultimate victory for the terrorists, right? I mean, we know that they killed a lot of people and that was, a horrible thing. But their long-term victory was how much they were able to chip away at, things that we were able to do before. Things as simple as taking somebody all the way to the gate at the airport, which you were no longer allowed to do after 9/11. You had to be a ticketed passenger, or taking your shoes off for not taking your shoes off. And, those are the littlest, tiniest examples. And then it goes all the way to the extreme of how much privacy is now going to be compromised, because if they wanted to find every terrorist plot, they could have listeners screening every phone conversation in every language that goes on. They have the technology to do it. I mean, heck, my Alexa, if I say the word Alexa, she says, yeah, what do you want? I mean, they're listening to everything. They can make anything they want a trigger word. So, I think Christopher Nolan was really right on the cutting edge of that. That was and continues to be a big theme in our culture and society is where we're comfortable drawing that line.
Yeah, and especially with and like you said, the timing of this movie. I don't have the year in front of me when this came out, but like it was
09, I think.
Yeah, so you're talking about exactly like he's riding the wave of that, like that mentality, because that was like this new concept. The internet was only so many years old even, and like what the digital landscape could provide for like a surveillance group hadn't really ever been put on screen in a way that was like going to resonate with like Batman fans. This was
right.
Something
and you know what, they are using it. Look, your location is tracked through your cell phone. You can turn certain things off, but there's other things that are, you'd have to turn a lot off for them not to know. And look, in most instances, it's used for good. Locating people's last known whereabouts and finding missing people and finding kids and knowing where your kids are. I mean, most of the uses are good, but it's like anything else. Any power that we have, if you put it in the wrong hands of a person that doesn't have rules, who doesn't have a border, a boundary, that's why the Joker character in this is the perfect villain for these themes, because ultimately the Joker arguably wins in this because he does cause Batman to compromise on his own rules, and for him that was the victory. Mm-hmm. That's what he was trying to do, is I am going to get you to break out of what is right and see if you're willing to do it for the greater good, and prove to you that your line is movable depending on the situation, and you're no better than I am. And by getting him to do that sort of was the bold move.
Yeah, I totally agree. And there's so many different ways to think about the two oppositions of the movie. And you talk about the last parts too, about the fairies, right? And it comes down to, these two individuals that are going head to head, but it's all these people and their choices too that are hanging in the balance. That's one of my favorite, I think one of the best things about this film. And again, like you said, maybe the best villain, not just the best Joker, but just such a good villain to put the power and the decision in the hands of the people that he's in fact threatening.
Well, and if you think about it, and it's a brilliant script. It truly is the best of all the superhero ones, because it's also he introduces the character of Two-Face, and in doing it, he's showing you that everybody has a breaking point. Everybody is capable of being very good or being very bad. And so when he goes on the ferry, and you get, they're playing on where they think your mind is going to go. Well, I mean, this ferry full of convicts, obviously, they're comfortable breaking the law. They're in prison. They'll have no problem detonating the other boat. And then, of course, they don't. You have the other boat of law-abiding citizens who are very quick to, not all of them, but some of them, to be like, look, they had their chance at society. They blew it. We did nothing wrong. Do it. And he just proves the point once again. It's the Two-Face point, that everybody, depending on their situation, until you're tested, you don't know which side of you is going to be the one that comes out. Is it going to be the good side? Is it going to be the evil side? And that just becomes a theme all throughout. And of course, when you have that big convict throw the detonator in the water, that is a Two-Face moment, because that's the reminder that even in a guy as scary looking as he was with the orange jumpsuit, that he's got goodness too.
Well, and also,
so it really works on so many levels.
And the good guy, I mean, it showed that good also conquered in that particular moment too, because the time comes and nobody kills anybody.
Yeah. It does show you that ultimately, that was the message, that was the point that Batman was able to prove, that not everybody will turn over to evil at the drop of a hat just because their own life is threatened. It's not that easy to take another life. And so, that's Batman. Look, nobody comes out of this a clean winner or a clean loser. That is Batman's victory. The fact that neither ferry explodes, because of the goodness within people. Mm-hmm. But the Joker's victory is Batman's use of the surveillance to get Batman to cross an ethical line.
Absolutely. All right. Well, I definitely want to play out the rest of this video for you real quick. Just want to do a quick gut check with you, Ed. Are we good on time? We've already gone way over what my original timeline is.
That's fine. I mean, I'm fine.
You good? All right. Let's finish this up, and then we'll wrap up with a few questions for Ed before we wrap up today's Logan's Heroes.
So let's take a quick review of Batman's rap sheet. Drives an illegal vehicle, property damage, both nationally and internationally. Massive amounts of assault, more property damage, illegal surveillance, invasion of privacy, and to top all that, punches a dog. Twice. And he does toss one off the side of the building. So what does Batman actually accomplish? Not very much. Batman, I'm all for vigilante justice when you're actually saving lives. But you don't really save any lives in this movie. Yeah, that's not true. He saves Harvey Dent, who, by the way, becomes the villain of the final act of the film, so good call on that, Batman. And he saves that little weasel who was going to reveal his identity on television by slamming his Lamborghini into some guy's truck. I mean, the big climax of the movie are the two ferries, and it's really just the goodness in people that prevents them from doing it. I mean, if there's any hero in the movie, it was that big convict who took the detonator away and threw it off into the water. I contend this. Batman did nothing. He technically catches the Joker, but bear in mind, there are 50 SWAT guys right there in that same building with the Joker. I think they would have caught him without Batman.
So technically Batman does find the Joker, which the SWAT team probably would have done.
Yeah, he finds him using a massive amount of illegal surveillance. I mean, he finds him breaking every freedom that we hold dear for one guy.
Notice I'm wearing my Allbirds, no socks.
I know what you're gonna say.
What was that?
Notice I was wearing my Allbirds there with no socks, even with the suit on.
And this is your first one, right?
That was the first one. We actually filmed that in the morning, and then that same afternoon I filmed Ed versus Serial. So we always film them in pairs. One time we shot 3 in a day. That was too much. Now we do them in pairs, except for Favorite Things, which took the whole day on its own because of all the costume changes and set changes. But yeah. In fact, Airplanes was shot the same day that Naps was shot.
Oh my God.
Which was kind of cool because of when they got released. Airplanes won an Emmy in 19, and then Naps was nominated for one in 20, but got beat. But I was like, how cool is that we shot 2 things totally unrelated in one day that both wound up getting recognized at the Emmys? It was kind of cool.
Unbelievable. And I think that's a great place for us to stop. And I wanted to say, thanks again for being on today, Ed. These videos have been so great. Who would have known that you, with this first video and the amount of content and just feel good energy you would bring to the internet. So with that, I kind of want to ask two last questions before we let you go today. First of all, what are you doing for Christmas?
You know, we're just staying here. We've been following. We're unlike Batman and Joker. I'm a notorious rule follower. So I really haven't been doing very much. I've got a phenomenal basement, so this is where I spend most of my time. But luckily, both of my kids now are of an age where we do not have to hide the presents and do all of that. So I think that'll be much easier. This is our first year of getting to do that because my daughter crossed over, only to inform us that she's been well aware for a couple of years, but thought she was ruining the fun for us and didn't want to ruin the fun for us. I'm like, are you kidding? You think I want to be up at 1 a.m. assembling shit? But anyway, we're just gonna be in town, enjoying it here.
Yeah, I hear you there. We've been big rule followers this year too. It's just trying to do what you're supposed to do and hope that the horizon is coming here shortly. And
it seems to be.
It seems.
I saw on CNN today they were already injecting a bunch of people with the vaccine. So we just need to hold out a little bit longer.
They arrived in St. Louis today too, and we're one of the first cities that'll get to give it to our healthcare professionals. So we're grateful for that. It seems
we've got Pfizer right here in Chesterfield, so
that's right.
I think we had an in.
Well, and this is a great segue to my last question for you today. To get a little philosophical for you, we're always looking to dig just a little bit deeper on this show. You seem like a really happy, successful dude. You smile a lot, you laugh a lot, and you talk about fun things, and it seems like you're genuinely just having a good time in life. I would ask you, what advice would you give to the folks out there, maybe somebody that's had an extra hard year, somebody that's having maybe just a bad spell over the last few weeks or few months? Well, what's your philosophy? What keeps you up in the morning and what keeps you smiling?
Well, I'll tell you. I'll give you a real answer, because I think that people have to realize that they are the lead in their life, and everybody around them is a supporting character in their life. And that's not to say that they should be selfish or self-centered, but a lot of people spend their life just as a supporting character in other people's lives. And I think that that leads to a certain amount of a built-up resentment. It leads to a lot of people feeling lost. It leads to a lot of people feeling unsatisfied and looking back on their choices and wondering how they got to where they are now. And I think it's never too late. I think you got to get to a certain point where you really figure out, what do I enjoy doing? How do I want to spend my time? Who do I want to be around? Who are the people that add to my life? What are the activities that give me energy? Where can I find my passion? And whatever those things are, make time for it. It doesn't mean you have to give up your job or whatever, because you don't need every moment of your day to be an expression of your passion and vitality, but you need to have some of that on a frequent basis to keep you going. So I just tell people, don't feel limited by what you've been taught your whole life about who you're supposed to be. About the things you're allowed to have and the things you're not allowed to have, because we do that as a society. We message it from the time people are very young. If you were given these gifts, these things are available to you, and if you weren't, you have to be satisfied with these other things. And all I would tell people is just let go of all of that. And find, just make your own path that way. It's been a journey. It's not like I've been like this forever. I work with a personal coach. I've been working with him 3 years, and it's gotten me to a place where I'm legitimately, I have passion in my life. And once you have passion in your life, it's hard not to be happy.
Well, that is super inspirational. I can just say, personally speaking, that's super inspirational. That's just it's definitely what's led me down this weird path of wherever this is going to go, because everybody's going to learn a lesson or two in 2020, I think,
whether you want to or not.
And for me, my big lesson was nothing is exactly what you thought it was supposed to be, and things that you've put on pedestals in terms of like what people can accomplish and what you can and can't do has been shown to you this whole time. But guess what? Like, in my mind, the Wizard of Oz has been like, the curtain's been drawn back, and you can see that even some of the most essential government entities, the way they function day to day, is a bit of a mess. And if that's a mess, you know, and not, I'm not dogging, this isn't about dogging people up top. This is about seeing, oh, the world is kind of a lot more what I can make out of it more than I thought. And
right. And I think it teaches you the lesson that you never know what curveball is going to be thrown your way, and you can't prepare for everything that happens. So, you know, worrying about things every day is probably not fruitful. And also appreciating how adaptability is so often the key to getting through life, because, you know, some people were able to adapt very quickly to the new world we lived in this year. Others had a harder time adapting. And yet, at the end of the day, we're all going to get through it. So we should all draw a lot of self-esteem and confidence from it, because we may never get something like this the rest of our life to ever challenge us like this. And we'll be, on some level, proud of the fact that we were here when it happened, the same way that other generations are proud of the things that they endured. Even tragic things. You have a grandparent that lived through the Depression. They love to talk about it. And, you know, this will be our thing. Hopefully. I don't want anything else.
Yeah, no, well said. Inspiring words from Ed Herman. Ed, thank you again for joining us today. Why don't you just tell us one last time where people can find you, and I hope that you come back and see us too.
Yeah, you can just go to getbctv.com. And all of the episodes we talked about are on the series called Ed Versus, and there's also 3 Lawyers Eating Sandwiches. We also have This Week with Tammy, which Tammy Holland hosts a weekly show for us, and she's a delight. And you can watch those animated shows as well. So getbctv.com.
Did you have fun today?
I had a great time.
I did too. I think that we just scratched the surface. Like, I mean, we talked about Batman for 45 minutes. I feel like we've got plenty in common, and we'd love to have you back on the show.
Anytime. I love this stuff.
Well, don't hang up. Stay right there, because we'll get that. We'll get the wrap up after the show. But for you listening, this has been Logan's Heroes, and check us out at mostlysuperheroes.com. We'll see you next time. Well, that was our interview with Ed Herman. I hope that you enjoyed it, and go check him out at getbctv.com. Plenty of good content there for you. What to watch for on Mostly Superheroes. We have another Logan's Heroes coming up. I'll let you see it when it gets here. And we also have the Batman Returns Christmas special. It'll be coming at you within the next week or so, before Christmas is our goal. Lots to see, lots to do at mostlysuperheroes.com, and follow us on all those social media channels. Most of all, subscribe to our YouTube channel and follow us where you get your podcasts. That's really the main way we talk to you guys. Hope you're doing well out there. I know there's a lot happening in the world. We're here and we're sticking around, and there's a lot more coming from us. We'll see you next time on Mostly Superheroes.